A deserted old hotel, from whose windows a dim light was seeping out. Why is such a big hotel even here in this desolate place? She wondered, squinting her eyes to see more clearly. Maybe someone is inside, she thought. A strange unease stirred in her stomach, but she had no other option than to enter this hotel. She decided to go in and move toward the entrance. The hotel's door was big and heavy. She knocked, but there was no response. Then suddenly, the door creaked open with a heavy sound, as if someone was pulling it from inside. For a moment, Susan's heart jumped into her throat. Inside, the hall was dark. Only a single old yellow chandelier hanging on a wall was lit. The atmosphere seemed extremely mysterious to Susan. She grew nervous. The darkness and strangeness affected her deeply. "Peace be upon you." A deep voice startled her from the darkness. She turned around. By the door stood a tall, thin man. His eyes were very deep, like wells of darkness. His hair was black, falling down to his shoulders, and his skin was extremely pale, as if he had never stepped out into the sun. He was staring at Susan very intently. Susan became nervous. My car broke down. Can I stay here? Just for a few hours. I'll leave as soon as it's morning," she asked, anxious. The man smiled and nodded. "Of course, why not? This place is empty anyway. I'm Adam." He extended his hand, and Susan shook it. His fingers were ice cold. A chill ran through Susan's entire being, and she quickly pulled her hand back. Adam noticed her nervousness, but without showing it, he invited her inside. In the center of the hall was a wide staircase leading upstairs. "You can rest in the room upstairs until the rain stops." Adam pointed to the upper floor and said. Susan thanked him and began to climb the stairs. At every step, the wooden floor creaked. Upstairs was a long hallway with rooms on both sides. Adam opened the door of the last room. Inside was an old bed, a cupboard, and a small wooden table. Through the window, the sound of the rain was clearly audible. Even upstairs, an unnatural silence and eeriness lingered. Susan was startled by it. To break this silence, she asked Adam, "Are you alone here?" Adam replied from the doorway, "Yes, for some time now." There was an unnamed sadness in his voice, as if a painful memory had surfaced or he was grieving a loss. Susan thought perhaps he too had been stranded here after some accident. She refrained from asking more questions. As Adam turned to leave, Susan said, "Thank you. If you hadn't been here and helped me, I might have been wandering outside still." Gratefully, she spoke. Adam turned back, a strange glint in his eyes. "We are all wandering somewhere. And eventually, we all meet someone somewhere." Susan was stunned. "I didn't tell you my name." Her tone was confused and fearful. Adam smiled. "You didn't tell me, but I know." And he closed the door and left. Susan stood in the middle of the room, her hair standing on end. Was it just a coincidence? Or, she thought maybe she had said her name out loud while sitting in the car. Yes, that must be it. Or maybe she had told him her name when she shook hands with him. Susan was confused. She sat for a while and then opened her bag to get rid of her wet clothes. The room had an old smell, as if something had been shut away for years. She looked out the window. The rain was still pouring. Trees were swaying in the wind, as if someone was shaking them. Susan stood by the window watching the scene for a long time. This place was very mysterious. Perhaps she had never come here before. And even today, had her car not broken down, this coincidence wouldn't have occurred. Late into the night, Susan couldn't sleep. She was lying on the bed when she felt someone standing outside the door. She sat up, her heart pounding. "Adam," she called out, but there was no answer. Then she heard a sound. Drip, 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 like a wet hand rubbing against the wall. Amidst the sound of the rain, this sound was stranger and terrifying. Susan held her breath. The sound kept getting closer. Then suddenly, from beneath the door, something black crawled in. Susan's eyes widened. It was a black sheet, slowly spreading across the floor by itself. She wanted to scream, but her voice was stuck. The sheet moved toward the bed. She curled herself into a corner, and a blood-curdling scream escaped her throat. Suddenly, the door opened. Adam was standing there. As soon as he entered, the sheet fell lifeless. "Are you all right?" Adam asked. Susan was trembling. This sheet." She pointed toward it. Adam picked up the sheet from the floor. "Sorry, it's my mother's. It sometimes moves on its own," Adam said in an ordinary tone, as if it was no big deal. Susan looked at him in shock. "What?" Adam held the sheet in his hands. His eyes had gone dark. You don't need to be afraid. Just don't touch it. He warned Susan and left with the sheet. Susan was left alone. A storm of questions was raging in her mind. Who was he? What was this sheet? And the biggest question, was this place really empty? Because now she was sure she wasn't alone in that room. Someone else was there too. Someone who walked on the ceiling, mingled with the rain, knocked on her door at night, and had come to take her. Fear had seeped into Susan's bones. The night had grown deep, but there was no sign of sleep in Susan's eyes. She sat on the bed, shivering. Those strange sounds from earlier, they still echoed in her ears, the sounds the sheet made while crawling on the floor. The air in the room was stifling, like an unseen presence was breathing in it. She rubbed her arms. Her skin was covered in goosebumps. What is all this? She whispered to herself. Outside, the sound of rain had grown faint, but the trees were still swaying in the wind. Their branches were tapping against the window, as if someone was trying to get in. Susan tightly wrapped the blanket around herself. She could hear her heartbeat loud and clear in her ears. She thought maybe it was all her imagination. Fatigue, loneliness, and the strange environment of this place. Maybe it was playing tricks on her mind. But that sheet, how could it move on its own? And Adam had also said it moved by itself. She picked up her phone, still no signal. She turned on the camera and looked around the room. No movement. Then suddenly, she looked at the window. A dark shadow had just darted past. Her heart raced again. She pointed her phone's light toward the window. Nothing was there. Maybe it was the tree branches swaying in the wind. Then she heard a sound, like something scratching the wall with nails. The sound came from outside the room. Susan held her breath and listened. The sound was getting closer. Now it was right at the door. She buried herself deeper in the bed, as if she wanted to hide completely. A few moments later, the sheet fell over her. And now, Susan was nowhere to be seen. She had been trapped within the sheet, and Adam's mother was now free.